The last episode I did on this series of What's Up in Archaeology, exploring the evolution of stone tools through our past, we covered the Acheulean industry in the complex. And as I mentioned last year, it covered two or more type of human species. Our ancestors, most likely direct ancestors, used the Acheulean toolkit, which consisted basically of what I said last time, the Swiss Army knife type tool, the Acheulean hand axes, and the species that used the Acheulean technology was Erectus and Antecessor, or as I like to call him, because Antecessor is not a dignified name for our ancestor, but until another one is developed, Heidelbergensis will suit me completely fine. Now, this week we are moving forward in evolution, in both evolutionary time and in the complexity of the stone tools themselves. And as you guys might know, I have a favorite human species that I talk a lot about, and they are Neanderthals. Now, the Neanderthal evolved the Acheulean complex into a vastly superior toolkit. It used innovative techniques to produce the tools, and they produced many more tool types than their previous ancestors did, the Heidelbergensis or Antecessor and Erectus. We all know that, well, I've been pushing ahead the Neanderthals, just so a quick rundown. Neanderthals lived between around more than 300, 400, 500,000 years to around, there's it's when they went extinct is still open for debate, but the youngest dates that we have are in the late early 40,000 year mark. Some have extended it back into our time, 20-ish, 28,000 years, but it's not definitive. And you guys know that I love Neanderthals. They were brilliant. They were resourceful. They adapted to harsh environments in Europe and Western Asia, and they lived on Earth longer than we have lived on Earth. So they endured a lot. They were very, very intelligent. Now, the stone tools which I am going to talk to you guys about are the Mousterian toolkits, and they developed this really, really innovative technique of producing them called the Levallois. I'll say it again, Levallois technique. So I'm going to share the screen. As usual, I have all the sources linked in the description, and while the European Union allows me to, I will link to them. But then I'll find ways to go around it, because I am Portuguese after all, and we are the best at going around things. So let us share the screen. I can't show the top because it has a picture that will most likely get it demonetized, and I can't even mention it, so I won't do it. It's just the Neanderthal tool kit, the Mousterian technique. Now, Neanderthals made elaborate stone tools, which was a critical part of their survival. They served as instruments for hunting, stripping flesh from animals, processing materials, and creating fire. The tool technology more commonly associated with Neanderthals is called Mousterian, and it lasted from sometimes around 300,000 years to around 27,000 years ago. These dates are very, very, how do I say it? They're average dates. The 27,000 years very, like I said, it's one of the very, very controversial late date for the Neanderthals, but the 300,000-year-old date is very established Neanderthals. They're pure Neanderthals. They're not possible transition, but they did evolve earlier, like we evolved earlier from our common ancestor as well. Now, the Mousterian toolkits consist of items such as hand axes, choppers, scrapers, backed knives, denticulates, and points. Now, let's discuss each one. Hand axes. We know that they are similar to the Acheulean hand axes, but not necessarily made in the same way, which I will get into that. The choppers were basically what chop up things, not woody material, but other things. We named them choppers because they look like the choppers, but they're more blocky type instruments. Scrapers, that's something that was new to the assemblage, the toolkit. The scrapers that Antecessor and Erectus used were those hand axes and possibly some flakes that they got off from producing the hand axes. But the innovative of Neanderthals was they prepared cores very, very specifically to produce the tools they wanted. This produced new type of tools, like they said, the scrapers, dedicated scrapers, backed knives. What is a backed knife? I'll see if there's a picture here. Here, the Mousterian hand axes, and as you can see, they're very similar to the Acheulean hand axes, but instead of being simply bifacially scraped, they were actually produced from a prepared core and chipped to form a very specific pattern. As you can see from the first image here, where the cursor is, I think you guys can see the cursor. That's this picture here on the left. I'll try and increase the magnification a bit more. There we go. That's better. You can see it's flat on one side and very bulbous on the other. That's because of how it was prepared. The core was prepared, and here's the exact example of the hand axes. Here's some more of them. They are much more finely crafted than the more simplified Acheulean hand axes. But I want to find out here a backed blade. Backed blades can be any one of these, the top ones, but there's not. I'll see if I can find it on another picture here. No scrapers. Nope. So let's see. Here we go. It's this central picture here on the screen, and the Levallois backed blades can be not the points, but any one of these scrapers and these flakes. What it is, it's where they, after they chip out a flake, any one of these. Here we go. Here's backed blades, backed knife. I was trying to find it because these pictures are quite small. The backed knives means that they take out this blade. It's very sharp on both sides. I think you guys can see it. You can see where my cursor is. Yep. And then the way they hold it is they have a really sharp blade on one side, but so they won't slice their fingers off. They chip out. They dull the other side, the other blade, the other cutting edge, until it becomes blunted. So they take these micro flints on the side here. You can see this backed blade. Try and increase it even more. Here we go. Backed knife. I think you guys can see it better. And you can see how it's sharp, really sharp. One simple cutting edge here, really sharp. And they chipped away. They've taken small flakes off another side, so they can hold it with their hand and not cut themselves. That is what a backed knife is. That is a new type of tool that the Acheulean complex did not have. The Acheulean tools did not have. Here's one. It's not these two lightly orange ones, but it's the one below this darker flint, this greyish flint. Here they've chipped away, they've taken away some of they've dulled the cutting edge, and this side is the one that cuts. Here, these are points. These are simple blades, and they're taken from the cores. Now, denticulates. Denticulates are basically, again, I'll show you that picture here because it's the denticulates is here they are. I think you guys can see this is a little bit off focus, but as you can see, they're taken sort of like they made it into like teeth things at the back. I can see the back blade a bit better. Some blades, normal blades. And you can see how it is. It's form of a dented the knife that has sort of teeth, a serrated edge type. Yeah, that's what it's, serrated edge, and that's what the denticulator. That's also a new technique, a new toolkit, a new tool, and of course points. Points are obviously anything that has a point in it. They were probably hafted onto a shaft of some sort to make a spear, for example. And here here's some on the right left hand side of this this picture, some Levallois points and Mousterian points. Levallois is the technique that they used to make these type of tools, and I will show you how it's produced. Here we go. Give it a little bit of more magnification. The Mousterian tradition was marked by a progressive reduction in the use of large core tools. Like I said, they prepared the hand axes much more carefully, so they weren't as bulky, multi-use as the Acheulean tools, the Acheulean hand axes, for example. They specialized in flake tools, became more common. The flake tools. The flakes were more or less standardized shapes, so they had to prepare them. So almost like the technique produced consistently shaped and consistent tools that they wanted to make them with. The blocks or cobbles of flint. Flint is the best material you can use to make stone tools because it has a very fine matrix crystalline structure that it readily flakes into consistent flakes, for the use of a better word. From those flakes, you can then, the way you prepare the core, you can get the same type of flake nearly all the time, and that's where the Levallois flaking technique was brilliant and innovative. You get a large cobble, where you prepare, as you say here, we prepare a core by taking flakes in certain areas. You continue to work it until you produce the shape of the rough shape that you want, as is shown here. One side percussion flake produced a tortoise shell shape. Now, a heavy percussion blow at the end, one of the end of it produces that blade, as you can see in the last one. It's flat on one side, and you have the bulb on the other, like I showed you in before. I'll go back to showing you the hand axes, the shape of the hand axes. This was from a prepared core, and then the core would not be that shape. They would then prepare it better to get to the shape of a hand axe that they want. So they'd continually flaked it, retouched it until they got to the shape of a hand axe that they wanted. This was used to possibly work wood. Possibly they've analyzed the cutting edge, the wear on it, the micro wear on the blade on the edges, and many of them are consistent with working fibrous material. And so that's how they produce the hand axes. Now they usually prefer a unifacial type of flakes. The Levallois flakes were preforms of making a variety of scrapers, cutting and puncturing implements. The raw flakes were modified for particular uses with systematic pressure, percussion flakes of the edges. Like I said, dulling them to make denticulate blades, backed knives, etc. The Mousterian flake knives made in this way were apparently used for such tasks as cutting small pieces of wood and butchering animals. Flake scrapers had a large number of uses, but were particularly important in processing animal skins, because now we get specialized tools for specialized industries, quote unquote, the specialized production. The scrapers, as you can see from let's see, where are they? From here at the bottom, they were heavy-duty tools that were designed to scrape hides to cure them, for example, scrape bark off trees, etc., etc. Depending on the ones that do, there were transverse scrapers here, Mousterian points, canted scrapers, the flakes, and double scrapers that were used for the heavy duty work. So they were quite robust, even though they were much more finely crafted, much more finer than the Acheulean techniques, that were the Acheulean tools. Some of them, like the unifacial scrapers and spear points. This is from a spear point, as you can see. It's a triangular, and you can see the cross section. This is a scraper because we know that the technique was made identical, but how it was chipped is what differentiated them. The spear point was possibly they could reuse that and produce a broken spear point into a scraper. As you can see, if you were to follow how this blade was produced, it would have been much triangular, except that they've broken off this bit. They've broken off this bit here to make an edge, possibly, or more likely the back part where it was dulled so they could hold it and not get cut, because flint is sharper than the most sharpest bisturi a surgeon has. In fact, I've already said it before, flint scalpels have a cutting edge of 2 microns. The best, sharpest metallic scalpel is above 10 to 20 microns. So there's no contest. You can see here some more of the Mousterian hand axes. Like I said, that dates from this one, gave it around 300,000 to 27,000. But this one here, it's a bit more, I think, 400,000. That is, it says here, presumably left by late Heidelbergenses. The Heidelbergenses, obviously, Heidelbergenses or antecessor did evolve into, or I better say this correctly. So, Neanderthals evolved from antecessor Heidelbergenses, and like I said, the 350,000 years, a good point of Neanderthal. The 300,000 is the center of established Neanderthals, but of course the transition, as in any of transitional periods, is unknown. In a past video, I've talked about how in Spain they discovered really old stone implements, stone tools, wood hardened. I think it was a spear, if I'm not mistaken, or a straightener. My memory is a bit vague, but they would have used scrapers to work the wood, something like these ones here, where in the center, the ones on the left, especially the grey flint here, and the orangey type flint. And to work the wood, to scrape it, to shape it, to sharpen it, etc., etc. Going back to the toolkits, denticulates. What were the denticulates used for? A lot of uses. The denticulates were used to carve and shape wood. The backed knives they cut flesh easily without cutting the user, because they had the back part of it dulled. What else? The choppers were used for smashing bones to obtain the marrow, hacking wood, or softening meat, possibly as a primitive hammer. The scrapers dressed hide and possibly assisted in obtaining meat from bones. What else? The points were, on the other hand, were often hafted onto spears, and they were used to attack and defense. Unlikely, very, 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 very unlikely. There we don't have evidence of that. But hunting, absolutely, and defense against predators, again, obviously, yes. The cave lions, hyenas, wolves, lots of big cats were roaming the Europe and Western Asia in that time. So yes, here it says they were more likely thrusted instead of thrown, and because of that shape, that's a possibility. Here are some hand axes from 80 to 40,000 years from Fontenay, France, and this is made from jasper. It's a type of stone. That's how you'd hold it. So they used the natural stone features itself. This part here that looked as the holding pane. Now, like I said, how to make it. Here's something better to make as shown. As you can see, you make the module. You chip out these areas to make the basic shape, and then you'd strike it to take out the flake, tortoise shape, tortoise shell shape, because it looks like a tortoise shell. And then you can do all sorts of things. You can make more than one tool from the actual flake. And this one here demonstrates the sheer craftsmanship that they make from this flake. You see here the two top one. They would then take out two flakes, the waste flakes, to make this type of shape. Then they take another flake, a sort of a triangular shield type thing, and then after they hit it, they would have obtained a three. It looked like a three-pointed tool, which is super delicate and super sharp. And here it illustrates they could obtain lots of tools from one core, and all the layers that they would produce, A, B, and C, as you can see, have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 type of tools from one core. They'd remove to make a lot of tricks. Here's an illustrated example how it was made, and it was just super innovative. It was brilliant. I hope you like these. I got to find more sites that have these animations, because these are absolutely awesome. These type of animations, I saw them while I was studying in animations, and I've even saw the actual flakes at my university, not copies, but not modern made, but actual flakes from that period in Australia, and not in Australia, from Europe, in the university where I was in Australia. And here's some more flakes, some scrapers, side scrapers, notched scrapers are interesting. Notched scrapers will evolve later into a tool called a burin, and I will explain that when we get to there. But for now, this is basically, here's another denticulated. See, it looks a lot of teeth to work wood and so on. Some more denticulated back scrapers and side scrapers. Oh, they were exquisitely tools. They had so many tools for scraping hides, etc. They would have been master hide producers, clothing producers type. So yes, I think we can end it here. Another example to how they made the blades. They're the same core, same technique. And they also used, obviously, they used their teeth to help along. And Shanidad, Eric Trinkhaus, I know this archaeologist, he's awesome. And I hope to meet, I would love to meet him one day, but that's for another time. So I think we'll end it here. And I hope you enjoyed this one. This technique is one of my favorite type of techniques. Even more, I even like it more. I like it more than the later techniques, which were even more intricate and ingenious. But